They built the future 10 years too soon. And the world punished them for it. This is the story of Google Glass. The billion-dollar invention that failed because it was right. When Google unveiled Glass, it wasn't just another gadget, it was a glimpse into the future. A computer on your face. A camera in your eye. The next evolution after the smartphone. At least, that's what they told us. Because back in 2012, Google Glass wasn't just tech. It was the future, a billion-dollar dream wrapped around a titanium frame. A future where information didn't just live on your screen, but in your vision. Imagine slipping on a pair of glasses and suddenly having the world come alive in front of you. You could walk down a street and see directions floating in the air, guiding you turn by turn without ever glancing at your phone. You could receive a text message, blink once, and read it in midair. You could record a memory without reaching into your pocket, just say, "Okay Glass," and your perspective became the camera. It wasn't just convenience. It was intimacy, technology woven directly into your line of sight, erasing the barrier between human and machine. For the first time, people felt like they could live inside their data. Information didn't interrupt life, it merged with it. At least, that was the dream. Google called it augmented reality, but it was something deeper, a vision of a world where humans no longer needed to look down to stay connected. Where knowledge was ambient, invisible, always there. Glass promised to make you faster, sharper, smarter. It was the kind of invention that didn't just change habits, it changed identity. And that's what made it magnetic. When Sergey Brin, Google's co-founder, first appeared wearing it, the press erupted. Headlines called it the next iPhone. Tech insiders whispered that this was the dawn of wearable computing. A camera, microphone, touchpad, and display, all packed into something that weighed less than a pair of sunglasses. The future suddenly felt tangible. You didn't have to wait for it, you could wear it. But underneath the excitement, something darker was brewing. Because what no one realized was this: innovation isn't just about what's possible. It's about what people are ready for. And the truth was, the world wasn't ready. At first, Glass looked like progress. But to everyone outside the tech bubble, it looked like something else entirely: intrusion. A camera, always pointing somewhere. A light that glowed faintly when recording. A tiny lens capable of capturing anyone, anywhere, without permission. It wasn't just a product, it was a symbol of surveillance. People started asking questions that had nothing to do with performance or design. Is it recording me right now? What happens to that footage? Can it be hacked? Glass turned everyday situations into silent standoffs. In a cafe, someone wearing it made everyone else uneasy. In a meeting, it felt like your privacy was being negotiated without consent. The line between innovative and invasive blurred fast. Because while Google wanted to change how we saw the world, they accidentally changed how the world saw us. They imagined a society empowered by constant information. But they forgot what constant observation feels like. And soon, the same people who once called Glass revolutionary began to see it as dangerous. Bars banned it. Movie theaters banned it. Even Google employees stopped wearing it in public. The irony was painful. The technology designed to make us see better ended up making us look away. Because no matter how futuristic it seemed, no one likes to live in a world where they feel like they're always being watched. Even if the watcher is wearing a billion-dollar dream on their face. In the end, Google Glass showed us something bigger than innovation itself. That the future isn't just built on what we can do. It's built on what people are willing to accept. And in 2012, the world wasn't ready to be watched by its own reflection. The first prototypes were mesmerizing, almost unreal. They didn't look like the clunky headsets we see today. They looked sleek, futuristic, something pulled straight out of a sci-fi movie and dropped into reality. A slender titanium band that curved effortlessly around your face, with a tiny translucent prism hovering just above your eye, your own private display. When Sergey Brin, Google's co-founder, unveiled them, it wasn't just a product launch. It was a performance. He jumped out of a plane wearing Google Glass, live streaming the descent to thousands of people watching below. The crowd went wild. A man falling through the sky while broadcasting it through his glasses, it looked like the future had arrived mid-air. Celebrities started wearing them, models, musicians, tech moguls. Photos of them appeared in magazines, on red carpets, at tech conferences. Glass wasn't just a gadget, it became a statement. Wearing it said something about you, that you were ahead of everyone else. You weren't looking at the future, you were looking through it. Tech journalists lost their minds. They called it revolutionary, the next leap, the iPhone moment for wearables. Entire think pieces were written about how Google Glass would replace the smartphone, how screens would disappear, and how soon everyone would have data hovering in front of their eyes. Investors were ecstatic. Billions of dollars started moving toward wearable technology startups. It felt like a new digital gold rush, and Google was leading it. And for a moment, it looked like they were right. The hype was intoxicating. People had to be part of it. When Google opened the Glass Explorer program, an exclusive invite-only opportunity to buy the device for $1,500, thousands applied within hours. Some even created viral videos, begging Google for an invitation. The internet turned the device into a symbol of status. If you wore Glass, you weren't just a user, you were a pioneer. But then, something strange started happening. Everywhere Glass went, tension followed. You could feel it, invisible, but heavy. In coffee shops, people stared a little too long. On sidewalks, conversations paused when you walked by. Friends joked about you recording them, but underneath the laughter, there was discomfort. It wasn't just curiosity. It was fear. Because these glasses didn't just see. They watched. They recorded. Silently. Effortlessly. Constantly. Waiters began refusing service. Some restaurants posted signs at the door. No Google Glass allowed. Bars banned it outright. Movie theaters, gyms, even casinos, anywhere privacy mattered, it was treated like a threat. Strangers whispered when they saw the faint glow of that tiny prism near your eye. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, but once noticed, it demanded attention. People didn't have to say much, the look in their eyes said everything. Suspicion. Curiosity. Discomfort. On the internet, the reaction was even louder. Photos of people wearing Google Glass spread like wildfire, each one a magnet for ridicule. Comments poured in mocking how they looked, cyborgs, robots, privacy thieves. The memes came next, people edited glowing red lights onto the lenses, turning Glass users into something alien, almost threatening. What had begun as a futuristic fashion statement quickly became a punchline. Suddenly, being a Glass Explorer, a title meant to represent pioneers of the digital age, didn't feel like an achievement anymore. It felt like a warning label. You didn't stand out as someone embracing progress, you stood out as someone others didn't trust. What was supposed to symbolize adventure now symbolized arrogance. The irony was painful. The very technology that promised connection had begun to create distance. The same device that was designed to help you engage with the world was now pushing the world away. Friends joked about it at first, "Don't record me," or "Hey, is that thing on?" But beneath the humor, there was something real, unease. They didn't know when to relax around you, or whether they were still part of a private moment. And slowly, that unease turned into resentment. Wearing Google Glass made you feel less like a human using technology, and more like technology wearing a human. You could sense it in every interaction. Conversations became shorter. People avoided eye contact. Some even turned their backs entirely. Because when you put on Google Glass, the world stopped seeing you. It saw a camera. It didn't matter that you weren't recording. It didn't matter that you only wanted to check a notification or take a picture of the sunset. The perception was enough to turn every moment into a standoff, you versus everyone else's comfort zone. And that's where Google's biggest miscalculation lived, not in the engineering, but in the empathy. They mastered innovation, but they underestimated emotion. They thought people would see the technology and imagine possibility. Instead, people saw a glowing lens and imagined surveillance. No amount of press releases or marketing could fix that. Google spoke about exploration, creativity, and progress, but the public wasn't listening to the words, they were reacting to the feeling. And the feeling was simple: discomfort. People didn't feel like they were living in the future. They felt like the future was watching them. Everywhere you went with those glasses, you carried that tension, invisible, but heavy. It followed you into restaurants, through airports, across city streets. The future was supposed to be liberating. But somehow, it had become claustrophobic. Because Google Glass didn't just show people what was next. It showed them how it feels when technology stops asking for permission, and starts staring back. And suddenly, every moment felt like surveillance, like the air itself had eyes. It didn't matter if you were in a restaurant, a gym, or standing in line at a grocery store. The presence of someone wearing Google Glass changed the atmosphere instantly. Conversations became quieter. People shifted in their seats. Every laugh, every glance, every word felt like it might end up being recorded somewhere, not by a journalist or a security camera, but by the stranger at the next table. Imagine sitting across from a friend, mid-conversation, and catching that faint, flickering light on their glasses. It's small, barely noticeable, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. You wonder, are they filming me right now? Will this moment exist online later? Can they hear everything I'm saying? It wasn't paranoia. It was instinct, that raw, human discomfort that comes when privacy suddenly feels optional. For centuries, the human face has been sacred, the one thing that represents identity, trust, emotion. And now, that same face had a tiny camera attached to it, one capable of capturing anything without permission. It wasn't just invasive, it was intimate in the wrong way. That's what Google missed. They built something brilliant, but forgot how uncomfortable brilliance can be when it stares back. Because technology doesn't live in isolation, it lives among people. And people don't always react to power with excitement. Sometimes, they react with fear. Google thought they were designing a tool for connection, something that would make humans more aware, more informed, more capable. But what they actually built was a reminder that we don't like being reminded we can be watched. And the problem wasn't just technical. It was cultural. They didn't just release a product, they released a new behavior. A new kind of presence. A new question: what does it mean to look at someone when your eyes might not be your own? Then came the branding misstep that sealed its fate. Google called its users explorers. It sounded bold, adventurous, visionary. But to everyone else, it sounded arrogant, detached. Like these weren't ordinary people trying out new tech, they were elite insiders playing with everyone else's boundaries. The public didn't see explorers. They saw invaders. And when the internet got involved, it gave them a new name, one that stuck like a stain: glass holes. That single word, born on social media, spread faster than any official marketing campaign Google could ever run. It was funny, it was cruel, and it was true enough to feel right. Because it captured exactly how people felt. That Google Glass wasn't for them. It was watching them. It didn't matter how advanced the tech was. The second people started associating it with arrogance, intrusion, and surveillance, its fate was sealed. You couldn't walk into a bar or a movie theater wearing Google Glass without someone rolling their eyes or muttering under their breath. The device that was supposed to make the world look futuristic now made its users look foolish, and everyone else feel unsafe. That's the paradox of innovation: the more powerful it becomes, the more fragile its acceptance is. And for Google Glass, the fear spread faster than the excitement ever did. What if I told you that Google Glass didn't fail because it was too weak, but because it was too powerful? It wasn't a broken idea. It was a premature one. Glass gave ordinary people a superpower: to record, remember, and recall reality itself, but society hadn't yet figured out how to live with that power. We hadn't built the ethics for always-on cameras. We hadn't learned how to coexist with machines that could see more than we could. So instead of embracing it, we rejected it. By 2015, Google quietly pulled the plug. The billion-dollar dream faded. And the future went dark, for now. But here's the twist. Google Glass didn't die. It evolved. Today, its descendants live in factories, hospitals, and warehouses, used by surgeons, technicians, and engineers. Glass became the silent backbone of enterprise tech, invisible, but invaluable. And now, in an age of AI, that same idea, a device that sees what you see, hears what you hear, and learns what you need, is coming back. Only this time, the world might finally be ready. Because the failure of Google Glass wasn't about bad design. It was about bad timing. It showed us that innovation isn't just about invention. It's about acceptance. You can build the most advanced technology on Earth. But if it doesn't fit the rhythm of human behavior, the world will spit it out. And that's the real story here. Every great technological revolution walks a razor's edge, a delicate balance between genius and rejection, between vision and delusion. History has shown it again and again. The same inventions that seem absurd or invasive at first are often the ones that quietly reshape civilization years later. Google Glass wasn't a failure because it aimed too high. It failed because it arrived before the world was ready to look that high. It wasn't broken technology, it was broken timing. When Google introduced Glass, it wasn't just launching a product. It was introducing a concept that humanity had never truly confronted before: the idea of living with technology that sees as much as we do. It blurred the boundary between what is private and what is shared, what is human and what is digital. But innovation always asks the same dangerous question: how much are we willing to change? And in 2012, the answer was, not that much. People loved innovation when it was on their phone, on their desk, on their wrist. But on someone's face? Always watching, always recording? That felt different. It felt personal. It touched a nerve buried deep inside human instinct, the fear of being observed without control. That's why Google Glass wasn't just a failed gadget. It was a cultural shockwave. It revealed what happens when technology moves faster than trust. The irony is, the idea behind Glass was sound. Brilliant, even. The engineers built a product that could make humans more aware, more efficient, more connected, but they forgot that no one wants to feel observed, even if the observer is themselves. The world didn't reject Google Glass because it didn't work. It rejected it because it worked too well. It took the dream of seamless integration and made it tangible, and in doing so, it exposed how fragile our comfort zones really are. Every major leap in history has faced the same fate. When the telephone was invented, people feared it would destroy real conversation. When the camera appeared, some believed it could steal your soul. When the internet emerged, critics called it chaos. And yet, each one became part of daily life. Google Glass just happened to land at the wrong point in that cycle, too futuristic for comfort, too visible to ignore. It's easy to call it a flop. But what if, instead, it was a rehearsal? Because here's the truth: the story of Google Glass didn't end when the headlines died. The technology evolved quietly, finding new homes in hospitals, warehouses, and laboratories. Surgeons now use similar headsets to access patient data mid-operation. Engineers wear smart lenses to guide them through repairs. Factory workers use them to boost precision. The world that mocked glass eventually adopted it, just not in the way Google imagined. And now, look around. AI assistants whisper answers in our ears. Smartwatches monitor our heartbeats. Glasses made by Apple and Meta overlay digital worlds onto our real ones. The exact vision that once made people nervous has become the foundation of the next era of computing. The difference? This time, we've been conditioned to accept it. A decade of smartphones, surveillance cameras, and social media has quietly trained us to trade pieces of our privacy for convenience. The very discomfort that killed Google Glass has been normalized. We live-streamed our lives, recorded our faces for filters, gave AI access to our photos and voices, and somewhere along the way, we stopped feeling uneasy about being watched. So maybe, Google Glass wasn't a failure at all. Maybe it was a mirror, showing us the boundaries we weren't ready to cross yet. Because the truth is, the world doesn't reject technology. It just delays it. It pauses it, until the fear fades, until society catches up, until the line between too early and just right disappears. The future doesn't vanish when an idea fails. It just waits, patiently, for when we finally have the courage to look it in the eye. And that's what makes the story of Google Glass haunting. Not because it flopped, but because it foreshadowed everything that came after. So the next time you hear someone dismiss a new invention, a strange gadget, an awkward headset, a technology that no one will ever use, remember this. Every breakthrough starts as a misunderstanding. Every world-changing idea begins as a mistake. Google Glass wasn't the end of wearable computing. It was the beginning of the conversation, a spark that forced the world to ask, how much of ourselves are we willing to share with the machines that help us? Now tell me, if Google Glass launched today, in a world filled with AI assistants, voice-activated devices, and smart glasses from Apple and Meta, would it still be called a failure? Or would we finally understand it for what it truly was? A vision of the future that came too early. And a reminder that the line between genius and madness is only visible in hindsight. Maybe one day, when smart glasses become as normal as smartphones, we'll look back at Google Glass not as a punchline, but as the prophecy that started it all. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't just scroll away. Drop a comment. Do you think Google Glass deserves a second chance? And if stories like this fascinate you, hit like, share, and subscribe. Because the next story might just change how you see the future.